Hello, everyone. We're going to start welcoming you to GovDirections Live YouTube today, and we will get started here in just a minute. Well, thank you for coming a little early. We want to go ahead and open up the YouTube Live session, and we'll let everybody into our room here just quickly. Hello, everyone. We're going to start welcoming you here to Gov School this afternoon. We'll get started here about a couple of minutes after the hour. And we're going to let everybody to continue to come into the room here. It looks like it's going to be a full class today, so we appreciate you taking time. We're also live on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, please note that we are not responding to questions posted there in the chat box until after the session. And if you are welcome to join us, though, in the live Zoom class. When you come into the session today, your mute status is on. I will open that up in just a minute to allow you to unmute yourself when you have questions. We encourage questions, but for your privacy reasons, we want to make sure you're fully aware of that when you first come on. Everything here is being recorded today, and we'll have it available immediately after the session on YouTube, so you can point to it directly and make sure you register there. Or I think they use the word subscribe so that you can get access to upcoming sessions and be notified when they come out. We're going to spend about 45 minutes together today. So hopefully you got some time set aside. I'm going to show you some exciting tools that we have been working on and we continue to work on, so we can help you with improving you're not only improving your writing skills, but also, improving your time that you have available to enjoy yourself. So that's the beauty of these tools, that they take things that were complex and really labor intensive, and it helps you to recapture some of that time. I think back to when we first started, using calculators, and how you'd have to spend hours and hours doing calculations and running when I first started in my career, taking really all afternoon to run some extensive calculations on arbitrage and things of that nature. And nowadays, it's to get the right computer, it's done in seconds. Same thing I think we're seeing with our GPTs, and we're going to share with you an RFP Writer GPT. I still have folks coming in the room. As soon as it slows down, I'll get us started here, because I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to enjoy it and understand. As you're going along, I think if you've never been here to one of my classes, I always like to learn something about you. So feel free to open up that chat box and drop in some information about your company. Your capability statement, of course, is always one of the things I encourage you to do, and make sure you have that updated. And I'm going to show you once again how important it is with chat this afternoon, and making sure. And if you have an RFP that you have an interest in, maybe you can link to it, or also drop that into the chat box, and maybe we'll use that as an example as we go along. I'm a big believer in experiential learning, and that means working and doing at the same time. And we'll have that. So we'll get started here. Please slowing down just a little bit. Okay. I do have Dr. Harper joining us, and as soon as she is in the room, I will introduce her, but see if she got caught up. She looks like she agreed at the last minute, so she might be coming just a little late with me. She and I frequently do sessions together, and she's got a great history and knowledge of how to work with government, and I like for her to always chime in with her expertise. And she is also an expert, of course, with the development of capability statements, and she works with our membership routinely to make sure you have the information that you need in order to not only now use them for GPTs, but also putting yourself in front of the local government or the state government, who's now using those almost as frequently as the federal agencies are. And so here we are now, just a few more seconds here, get everybody in here, and we'll get started. Everybody's coming in, and I'm just going to get us started so we can stay on time. And I appreciate you taking the opportunity to join us today. And if you do have a question as you go along, just feel free to type that question in the chat box, and I will refer back to it, and as well as to let me just make sure somebody can confirm you're able to actually do that. So these are new tools, of course, with they've updated Zoom, so they keep changing to make sure I give you that access to ask questions. So just one second here. There's Dr. Harper. Hold on just a minute. Here we go. We're getting this stuff started here. Hello, Cynthia. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Glad you're able to join us.
Oh,
As we get
absolutely.
started here, I've just briefly chatted with some folks here and telling them that how lucky we are to have you as a part of our team, and how you bring a lot of expertise to the field. So I want you to chime in as we go along if you have some comments, because these are all new tools to all of us, and hear how folks can best work with them to make sure that they're productive. And just to be clear, if somebody could just really quick before we get going, because I want to make sure you have the ability to chat. Yep, it looks like you are. Yes, people are starting to chat now, so that's good. Okay, so welcome to Gov School, and we're going to spend once again about 45 minutes together. This is a recorded session. We're live on YouTube. It'll be available immediately after the session, and making sure. And I usually just focus on the screen, but here I am this afternoon, and thank you for joining us. And we'll move forward here. And what we're going to do today specifically is talk about RFPs, requests for proposals, in writing, and using tools such as the GovDirections RFP Writer GPT, which is now in the GPT Chat GPT section, and I'll show you how to look that up so you can use it. And just quickly before we get in going, I would hope that Dr. Harper can actually introduce herself briefly. But here I am, and one of the reasons I'm interested in this topic, I've been working in this field for some 30 years, and around the whole area of bids and contracting. I'm a professor adjunct capacity at the University of Georgia, where I teach future contract writers how to write the RFPs that you respond to. And in fact, in my class, I routinely saw the use of ChatGPT and other mechanisms to really get that homework done quickly. And you just kind of come to learn to kind of accept those. I'm actually a big believer in why waste your time whenever you can, as long as you're learning. You got to learn as you go along. You got to use your content and understand it, but use tools that can speed things up. Makes a lot of sense. And I do think that you have to make sure you read through things, and you can use them as outlines and add content, but nothing's going to substitute like your own knowledge. But have a strong interest in how you respond to RFPs. And of course, we created GovDirections, and we've been in the sector since 1998, and we now serve just over 130,000 companies worldwide who are proactively registered in our systems in some way. So, Cynthia, if you want to introduce yourself briefly and let everybody know about your background, I appreciate that.
For just a little background, I actually started when Mark started. Can you hear me, Mark?
Yeah, I can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. My video, I guess I don't need my video. It's blocked out, so that's fine. But I started when Mark started, but I dropped out of it about 10 years later, and then I came back into the industry about 10 years ago. So I have a gap there, but I can tell you this, I've learned so much about, it looked like this guy here, Kevin, Billionaire Boss, we share very similar experiences, management consulting and staffing, and IT, healthcare staffing and IT staffing in the government market. I think the greatest thing is just to watch small businesses be redeveloped. So I've had the experience of working with groups like Mark, where I get to learn about teaming and get to train on capability statements and get to be I've been a part of some very large processes or large bid acquisitions. And then I've also worked in some very small ones. What I'm learning is don't be so afraid of the small ones. They actually can add up to be big ones. So I love the business. I thought that I didn't, but I see that if you're going to do business, why not buy from the biggest, why not service the biggest buyer in the world, which is the federal government? So as a management consultant, I work with temperament and I do leadership development. I love to provide healthcare staffing and IT staffing. And I just like people. I'm a motivator. So that's me. I took what I did in my corporate career and just kind of matriculated over to the government. And it's the same thing. It's just a matter of selling, producing, and getting a good name in the industry.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. And one thing I'll share with you is I know enough about technology to be dangerous sometimes, and apparently it blocked off the video. So now you should be able to open up your video. I think I figured that out.
Okay.
But as we go, there you go. See why
Yeah.
we thank you for doing that. And so the purpose of the day was I'm actually going to walk through an RFP briefly so we know what we're looking at, and then go over really quickly some of the sections and how you are actually going to use that in a chat in a Writer GPT session. And then I'm actually draw through and use an RFP as an example with it, and we'll start a response back to that RFP with the tools that I'm going to show you. But today specifically, we're going to focus on how to respond with the RFP Writing GPT. And the fact of the matter is everything's being revolutionized in the RFP process specifically and how you respond. We have tried to stay on top of that. We have AI-driven systems now, as well as using these new tools to help you focus in. And you've noticed really over the last year or so how much we've got involved in the actual writing part as tools became available. And we have built this tool specifically so it's uniquely for our customers to help them win. So you can call for more information about that, and we'll continue to implement tools and ways to use that system, these systems within our databases, and we'll be introducing that as we move along. And it's easy sometimes, especially I just recently turned 60, so it's why are you still on online marketing on these things? But the truth of the matter is, it's a challenge, and you got to be engaged, and it's fun to learn, it's fun to use, and I really enjoy what we do. But just remember, and I always use this slide every single session, it's supposed to be hard. Okay, it is frustrating sometimes. So if it were easy, everybody would do it. Okay, and so just keep that in mind as you go through here. And sometimes you stumble and fall, and you just I think. The thing to remember is how hard you fail, but how quickly you can get back up, and how you handle that. And so when you're looking at this, and when you actually are working in this field, and I know it's very frustrating to try to win those RFPs, the first thing you always want to look at is what kind of contract and instruments are you really responding to, and just understand that governments have a lot of different ways they're trying to get your attention, and the whole theory of the firm and why we contract with each other and how we go about doing that, and we use different methods to make sure we're treated uniformly in the government space. And here's a list of those. And today, what I'm most really kind of focus in on is the request for proposal. But what I'm showing you today really can apply uniformly across the board and all these other instruments. And a lot of times we're responding. We don't want to ignore these, like the request for information or the source of salt, or just that straight up invitation to quote. These things are there, and make sure you can come to understand what they are. But I always like to point out that when we're looking at any of these instruments, and specifically the RFP, the true definition is that it's a solicitation. They're trying to get your attention. And a lot of times I hear from our client base is that the question is, isn't this already a done deal? And are they really looking? And the answer is, it's not a done deal. They are looking, and there's all kinds of mechanisms in place to just go straight out and hire you and procure your services or supplies. And so governments can do that. So why do they want to bother with these more, if they're not really interested in you? And some of these documents, it's done by in a professional way by an agency. It'll take them close to a year to get to the point where they actually have issued the RFP, even sometimes multiple years. And so whenever you read those, and this is because they're really trying to acquire something valuable to that community and to that organization, and they want you to take it seriously. And And so the tools that I show you today, it's not to be taken lightly in the sense that you just want to, I see this every time. Sometimes I have to make sure I don't do this where it fails to actually put in the name of something, or you capture the name twice, and you got to go through and you got to read through it. Take it seriously, okay? Don't just pump these documents out and send them back. And not and I always caution some of my clients, and they want to bid on everything. Don't just go bid on everything. You really send the wrong signal sometimes. And it's important that you're targeted in your approach. You use indicators of success whenever you're pursuing RFPs or business, and you'll find more success. And in fact, sometimes it's really kind of been frowned on if you're actually just bidding on everything. It doesn't really it's unserious. And so you need to be serious in this business in order to be successful. The typical parts of an RFP, and this becomes important as you're laying out your format, but they're always going to give you a statement of work. And if you know anything else about when I teach, when I talk about these topics, the statement of work needs to speak to you. In fact, it needs to be singing a song in your head. You're the one that I wanted to find. Okay. Take a whole play song. If it's not doing that when you read it, skip it, move on. Okay, there's tons of opportunity, and you want to make sure that you pursue something that really fits your company and don't waste your time. But technical specs, this is where they're going to outline what they're looking for. And at this point, I always say, you try to get a perfect match, but if you don't get a perfect match, it's okay. Get up there to about 75%. You'll be above average most likely. And you just don't walk away from something because you don't have a perfect match. And the schedule of pay attention to it, not only the response time to get back to the organization, but also what you actually have to do in terms of the deliverables, because that's going to drive your cost model. And it's important that you fully understand that. And sometimes organizations want something done quickly, and while you can do that, it also oftentimes costs you twice as much to make that happen. And so it's important that you really pay attention to those. And then, of course, we all know that contract terms and conditions, this is the things oftentimes hidden and we forget about, but this is really where your profit center's at. And this is where it talks what happens if something doesn't happen the right way. It's the whole concept of forbearance, and how do we forgive in the contracting world. And so you don't get caught with some unexpected expenses when you're pursuing that business. And most importantly is the format of proposal. I think the government tells you how they want you to respond. Don't take it upon yourself to tell them how you're going to respond. Okay, that's not a winning strategy. Take what they tell you, do exactly what they ask you. It's their responsibility when they're preparing an RFP to practice the ABCs, the accuracy, brevity, clarity when they're talking to you, and give you the information that they're seeking. And that's all you need to respond to. And when you respond back, it's your responsibility then to take that the reign and give them ABCs, the accuracy, brevity, and clarity back. And you don't need to be talking about things that are not part of the RFP. Don't give them different ideas at this point. You responded to them in a straightforward way. That's how you find success. So pay attention to that formatted proposal. If it says this section, it starts here, and in the next sections after that, well, you need to have that in that order. Don't make them go looking. And qualifications and experience, this is so important that you are able to go in and talk about yourself and talk about your company, define your capabilities, and your capability statement is the first step of doing that. Making sure you got that laid out. I used to give a quote. I may even have a quote here by Alexander Haig, who used to be there, the General Haig, who was under President Reagan, and he said, define yourself. And then just the other day, I heard Vice President Harris say, her father told her that you need to define yourself and don't let anybody else define you, because if they do, they won't do a good job. Okay, they're not going to do you any justice. So you have to step forward, be prepared to give your qualifications, have your experience laid out in a winning way. And don't shy away from that. And that's probably whenever the confidence, when I work with clients in RFP writing specifically, they come and say, "Oh, I don't have any references. I don't have any past experience." And I'm like, "Well, surely you do. You're here today, and there's a reason why you're here. Let's just figure out what that is." So come not with not doubting yourself, but with full confidence that really that you're there for a reason, and they should be giving that contract to you. And then, of course, cost breakdown. The beauty of some of the other tools within the GPT is you can go in and do a lot of analytics. We got some 6 million records in our database now, and we've just happened to be keeping them in place since we started, and it's been growing and growing. And it was so tempting in years back just to do away with some of that data, but now I'm thinking good. I thank goodness every day that we kept it, and so we're able to go in and do a lot of analytics very quickly to get to costing, almost get precisely to the point you need to be at in order to win a contract. And then at last but not least is the evaluation criteria. If you know how somebody's going to measure you, that's so helpful. So take it seriously, because that's what they're going to use. Governments can't just step in and evaluate you in methods that they haven't established for everybody in general. And while there are social and emotional factors that come into play in any analysis, especially in government, there's been a lot of studies that have shown that. And you just never know when you shouldn't just rethink everything you do simply because you don't win something. But they generally work within a structured framework, and you're able to go back in and see what you're looking at. And so that's important. And so whenever you're using the GPTs and other methods to analyze, you want to make sure you take what you haven't won and say, hey, this is the last time we did this. Tell me what I can do better. And you can use that sort of analysis to really help you out. But just remember, statement of work, is so important. What about that, Cynthia? Whenever you look at a RFP bid, what do you think of all of these? What do you think is the most important?
Well, when I think about the statement of work, because I believe in purpose, I believe that it should, like you said, it should speak to you. So it should be something that you already know. That's why I believe personally the statement of work is the most important one. But I believe personally you should niche what you do. Some people want to be a jack of all trades. I don't believe in that, particularly in the government market. You want to be able to have a signature piece that you do and you do well. So you
And
should
I
be
know
able to
you've
read that.
written,
Yeah.
yeah, you've written that book about purpose, and
Yeah.
so important, how important that is in making sure that we follow that philosophy. I'm a big believer in that as well. And of course, one way to help you define that, and Cynthia helps you with these type of processes, and you can certainly she can put in the chat ways to get in touch with her. But building that capability statement so it speaks really specifically to your purpose. And I want to help share with you that this document now becomes very important in the process of using using other methods to really speed up the process in a GPT. And this helps define really how you're going to meet the expectations of that government. And I'm going to show you how I use my document, my capability statement to do that. But the information that the government specifically requests at the federal government level is very useful and helpful in this process. Okay, I just can't stress that enough. So if of all the things you want to spend time on, I used to say the first thing you really need to do is to find an RFP. Well, now I step back and I said the first thing you need to do is define yourself. Okay, and make sure you got a good utility statement that meets expectations of the federal government and what they're looking for. And your core mission is the most important part of that, and your differentiators and your core competencies and your codes that you're associated with, and as well as your contact data. These are all things that Cynthia talked about in her session that she does with us on capability statements. But as we go through here, it's important that you use the tools to first take the RFP that you're going to work with, and you're going to pay attention to the areas that we discussed, but you're going to read the entire proposal. And frankly, right nowadays, the first thing I do is run it through Chat GPT and then say, hey, tell me the important parts of it. Now, I still go back and read everything, to be honestly. You have to. You don't want to have something just catch you at the end. I was actually working with somebody the other day, and it prepared a response for them and gave the wrong email address. So you had to catch that. I'm not sure how that quite happened, but you have to make sure you read through and still pay attention. There's no substitute for your own intellectual knowledge. But when you're looking at something, make sure you talk to colleagues and make sure you're good. But if you have your indicators laid out, you can basically pull any RFP these days in PDF and say, hey, match this to my indicators, and it will say what high degree of match you are. So those are ones you focus in on. I'm very specific in how I actually pursue a contract now, and I use when I first started some 30 years ago, and I would take any business I could get. And a lot of us are at that stage right now. I get that. But now I've gotten more specific, and when I go and look, I want to make sure it's in a particular area, particular size government. It's the level that they're a government that gets along. What's the votes that they've had in the most recent meetings that they've had. I don't want to go into a contentious environment. It just slows things down. It's not fun. It's not what I do. Okay, so I want to know these things, and so I build these indicators and then ask, how does my how indicators fit this RFP? So these are tools that you can now use, and always organize. Okay, and I'm going to kind of show you and stress that to you in just a few minutes. I use a Google Drive. It's free, for goodness sakes. Why not take advantage of it and keep your budget slim? But there are also great tools that are out there that you can use. Make sure you, once I said, having indicators ready, it just saves you time. Have your templates ready to go. Understand how you're going to do these. Do your price research. Keep that on the top of the game at all times. Anytime you see, we do awards and publish those in a previous 30-day period every day. And so you can take that information and gather it and store it now, and then you can call it within the Drive, and just stay on top of the game. That's so important. Our experiential writing is that. Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to mention something. One of the gentlemen in the chat, he made a mention that they noted inside the RFP that everything be written in Tahoma 11 points. And he said he didn't even realize that, that they had asked for that. And that when you talked about being detailed, that right there, and I was glad that he admitted his error, because sometimes we don't understand it. If they ask you to have it in 12-point, whatever font they choose, that's what they're looking for. So that was very good. Thank you for noting that, Shawshank. That's good.
And and just like that, there's other things I see recently. I'm going to show you a trick that I do when I first start with an RFP in just a second. But also when there's page limits, and you don't really pay attention to them till the end, then you got to redo everything. And so you don't want to do that. But I like the 11-point. That's some of the first things I look for whenever I do that, because these are just basic things, and you don't want to be ruled out for a response simply because or marked non-response because you didn't follow those instructions. And as I always tell, whenever we're doing our writing service specifically, I would say the first thing you want to do, you're not really winning the contract to begin with. What you're trying to do is to build confidence in the contracting officer that you know what you're doing. Okay. And so to get past the ability just to pay attention and follow instructions is the first step. And so when you violate that rule, you quickly just drop to the bottom of the list. Okay. And you don't want to have that happen. So, as I said, I'm a really big believer in experiential process. The only source of knowledge is experience. So let's just take a look at some of the AI tools using the RFPs to do that. When you're in your RFP drive now, an RFP delivery, and you're in your account on the dashboard, I'd like to point out a couple of features that we've added. The first is that you want to make sure that you've got your UEI in your document, in your area. And if you haven't put it in, you just go to your settings. It'll pop up at the bottom, give you an indication, but just update your UEI here, you add it in. Okay. When you do that and you click here, it actually takes you to your SBA profile. Your SBA profile is very important, specifically for those micro purchases that you're talking about. I hear all the time that terminology, but you got to have your company ready to go in here and have everything in there. Also specifically your capabilities. When I work with clients, I always leave this one. This is my example of how not to do it, but there's no capability statement link. There's no capability statement information in the document. Then nobody can find me. Okay. So that's something you want to make sure you do. We have a tool that'll help you do that, and we'll do small business updates with you if you need that as a member, or you can contact our offices and they'll hook you up with that. But in your account, you also now have the ability to go ahead and add your capability statement. And when you do add it, it will appear here. You can have multiple ones so that you can use them in different ways. And so then you can then come in and pull it up. And we also present that to organizations, and it allows it to be indexed appropriately. And so somebody can be driven to you from that. So just another way to mark it within our systems. About 80% of our contract postings are done by local governments. We're not affiliated with any government. And we always, make sometimes a little half-hearted fun with all the companies that are out there and say, sometimes the governments are on planets and stars and nets and whatever. We don't really care. It's a fragmented system. Every government we're posting in our system to drive you to them. That's great that they have these tools out there, and we want to encourage you, but you got to get them from everywhere. And then last, we have, if you have our some of our RFP writing tools, then you have a drive that we've already pre set up for you. And this will actually drive you to the drive where we have some organizations, and we focus on organizations, including, just the standard Dropbox to drop in documents, templates built so you have those ready to go, and continue to add them based on the type of business that you're in. And so, but to keeping it organized, keeping it there, and for you in a quick way, and then a bidding process. And now we've added, of course, the chat RFPs, and you can go, and if you're learning about this, then you can go to chat RFP, start rfps.com, and it's going to take you to a session where we teach. Now my class tomorrow is full, but we have some classes coming up, and so you can certainly do that, with all with the concept of give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. But if we teach you, you can feed yourself for a lifetime. We don't try to hold you into an RFP writing service. It's more about teaching you how to do things so that you can go out and pursue them, and making sure you set these up in a bidding and RFP process, including the components, and you have them ready to go. For example, I think I talked to you about your qualifications here, having the capability statement there. I'm going to show you how to use it in just a second, but also going in and organizing your RFPs and interest in particular ways. There's really 5 stages that we monitor. One is pre-active, where we're actually, we have somebody right now pulling budgets, looking to see what's going to happen starting October 1st in large communities across the United States. We give you a pre-warning, but then when it becomes active, you want to go in and actually start working that document. And here's one that I've identified that just popped up. It's in Clarkson. It's a community very close to us. And I, as you probably know, if I do sessions, I usually focus in on the field of human resource compensation classification work, and that's what I do. And so here's the actual RFP. And let's see here. I think I've got it open. I'm opening them up again. So we got it, but the RFP's there. Everything's in PDF these days, so I can then pull it down and have it ready to go. I'm gonna read through it. I'm gonna pull out some basic information, and then I'm gonna start building a response. And when I build my response, the first thing I do, and I've already done this here, is I drop in just a quick tool, the table, insert a table with some, and using the drop down features, and start with a line. So if it does have the Tahoma point factor 11 requirement, then I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to keep that front and center until I know I've got it done, and pull that out. I'm also going to always do a cover sheet and drop that in, and the cover letter before I even do anything else. Okay, and then I'm going to go through actually in that RFP in order to go out there and pursue that. Okay. And see what I got to actually to do individually there. Getting too many windows in here. Let me close some of these windows out. Okay, so here comes to the big thing. Okay, what I wanted to really share with you today, I had to build all that up because that's really the part that's so important, is getting yourself to this point. Okay, knowing how to find, knowing where the bid's at, having your capability statement ready to go, and you want it to be more successful instead of jumping deep into the pool and drowning. You don't want to have that happen. Okay. So we want to be ready. Okay. So we got our document there. And so we're going to go to our GPT account, or I have a chat GPT is what I use. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is then look up the actual GovDirections RFP Writer. And you can just search that in chat GPT. If you're not there now, you can go and set up an account. I think it's chatgpt.com, and then you can just search it and you can pull that out. Okay, it's here, and we got some pre items to help you start your chat. Okay, and when you start your chat, first it's going to be about your capability statement, and I'm going to say, hey, take my capability statement. You know what? I'm going to take a step back.
I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Brandon Ramos has a very interesting question. He stated that when it was a capability statement required, that he'd never been asked to present one or to share one anywhere. That's unusual in the government, that you haven't been asked for that.
That's true. And what I always tell you, Cynthia, is sometimes you don't sit and wait for them to ask you for it. Okay, you use it in a marketing capacity. I take mine whenever I go to any industry day or into a pre-bid meeting, pre-proposal meeting, and I have it ready. I also use it when I'm doing a pitch. That's my placard that I have it put down in front of the client. so they're not fumbling through my actual proposal document. And I found that very useful. But I can tell you this, that if you're responding to a source of salt or a request for information, you got to have your capability statement ready to go. Okay. And so that's the document that's hard. And so what we try to do is take those and use them elsewhere too. And so that's important. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna ask chat to review this particular RFP for me and tell me what the big items are. And of course, it's in my drive, and I'll use different tools, but I'm going to actually pull it off of my desktop just to ease it. Okay. And so I'll drop that in there, and then I'll run the chat, and it'll give me some details. Okay. And so job analysis classification is exactly kind of work I do. So right away, that song is, that scope of work song. This is the one I want to find fits me. And it's not only that, but it's really right around the corner. And that's a great one. I know you're probably familiar with Cynthia where Clarkson's at. And looking for background experience is important, some details. Okay. They're going to need some insurance valuation. And I could have got this, of course, but just by reading the RFP, but I want to also introduce this to the RFP writer. Okay. And so now I'm going to introduce once again take my capability statement and use to draft a response to their requirements within the RFP.
Wow.
Okay, and to be honest with you, this is not the best capability statement. It's an older one that I have, but I'm going to use it, see what happens. Okay.
Yep, I updated mine this week, Mark.
I'm going to go get me a quick drink. I'll be right back, Cynthia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Use that time wisely, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's going to come in, proposal response. Okay. And, one way I can always tell when somebody uses any kind of chat product is they use a lot of bold in in how they reply back, and they also use that for the headers. And so it's important that you actually step back a little bit in when you review those. But of course, you can then take your response. Okay. And I'm going to use this to use as a draft. Here, I'm going to actually do a section break because I'm going to build my table of contents. Okay. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and have it draft me a cover letter. I'm going to need a cover letter. Okay. I'm always nice to it. Use the words please and thank you.
I mean, this thing really provides a lot of great data for you.
And speeds up the time. And how it matches. So to those who follow on, I'm saying, please draft a cover letter for my response that highlights my experience and how it matches. And I have we actually have prompts built in here to help you out if you don't know what to prompt. I'm just making some up now. It always drops in your information up front. I always find that unusual. I was always taught when I'm writing business letters not to do that, but here's the basic information. And you might want to highlight something more than your experience. It could be, past performance. It could be, that you don't have. Maybe you can tell it to turn it around a little bit. And if I had put information about my phone number and email address already in here, it would have drafted all that in there. But I'm gonna need this for my comment. Okay.
So Diana has a question. She says, what is the conversion rate from using chat GPT for RFPs?
And so when you use the term conversion rate, I assume you're saying my win rate or what I'm going to win and what I'm not going to win. I don't think it actually has any bearing on it at all, period. And I can't say that to be 100%. Don't have enough evidence to suggest that, but all this is doing is speeding up my ability to respond. I'm not going to just turn this in, okay, like this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to read through it, okay, just like anyway. I take this seriously, but it just sped up the process significantly. I don't have to go and start with that blank sheet of paper and then and not only that, but it's tailoring the response to this RFP. But I'm also still going to go back and fill in the details, okay? Because this is what certainly great, but I need to go in and make sure some of this I might have to do a little bit more details that I'm not going to pick up from my capability statement. I'm going to have that has to deal with specifically the methods and deliverables, okay? And so will that, I don't know if I've answered that question right, but well, maybe I'll start keeping a list of that comparatively speaking. But to be honest with you, I'm not going to be submitting any future proposal without using chat. It's not, it just doesn't make any sense for me to waste my time. It's such a waste of time. And so when I've got this tool here, so it'd be like me trying to do an amortization schedule for clients and having a calculator and a computer right at my hands, but still trying to do it by hand. It doesn't make any sense anymore. Okay. And so that's important. So, but what I want to do here is today was to kind of show you these tools and to introduce you to specifically the RFP writer, and it continues to learn. And we're teaching with it and building prompts that are there for you. And I encourage you to add those. And we have some there to help you. And I'll stop today. I told you to get this done in about 45 minutes and see if there's any questions there for you. And I'll just step back over here quickly to your account and to there just to say that those who have to leave, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to stop the recording on YouTube Live so we can feel more comfortable asking questions, and I'll open up the chat ability and open up the ability to discuss things. Okay, just 1 second.
And while you're stopping,
You
I
were
just
here
want
on
to
YouTube Live.